Vice President Kashim Shettima says President Tinubu is aware of the challenges Nigerians are facing. And tonight, we get the views of senior advocate of Nigeria and right activist Mr. Femi Falana on the state of the nation. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. Tonight, we'll be taking some legal perspective on the state of the nation. From the response we got from INEC to the state of the Nigerian judiciary, the 1 month in office of President Bola Tinubu, the policies and some of the backlash of some of the decisions of the new government. We get the views of Mr. Femi Falana on some of these issues. First, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
The African Parliamentary Advocacy and Reform Group and the Parliamentarians for Global Action are calling for the 10th National Assembly to adopt the digital parliament system in line with global best practices. This, according to them, will improve the involvement and contribution of lawmakers in every legislation. Chibozo Onyerekeke, director of the African Parliamentary Advocacy and Reform Group, stated this at a press conference in Abuja to mark the International Day of Parliamentarians.
If there is a kind of financial reform that should happen that will make the institution to have more money than the individuals within the institution, then that is a welcome development that can sustain the National Assembly.
A group under the aegis of concerned Imo citizens have staged a peaceful protest on the relocation of the Imo State National and State Assembly Election Petition Tribunal to Nasarawa State. The protesters carrying placards with various inscriptions gathered at the entrance of the Court of Appeal in Owerri, the Imo State capital. According to the protesters, the decision to relocate the tribunal to Nasarawa State is an aberration and unnecessary, as the security reason being cited as a reason for the relocation is not accepted. They say the security situation in the state is far better than that of Nasarawa, and they wonder the rationale behind the relocation. They therefore call on the president of the Court of Appeal to rescind the decision on the relocation and bring the tribunal back to Owerri in Imo State.
We have come to say that it is an attempt to present the state in a bad light. Imo is safe and secured, and all of us are living in Imo.
The governor of Taraba State, Mr. Agbu Kefas, wants the chieftains of the People's Democratic Party in the state to give way for youth to be groomed and appointed into administrative positions instead of recycling politicians without any positive outcome. The governor made the appeal while playing host to some elders of the PDP forum at the government house in Jalingo, the state capital. Governor Kefas told the party chieftains that though some positions are reserved for experienced people in government, 80% of his cabinet will consist of young people.
I want to plead with you to understand the direction we're going. We have a lot of appointments that you cannot give young people. Those ones are there, and they will be guided.
The Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Adubayero, is calling on the government to provide relief measures to cushion the effects of the current hardship in the country. The Emir was speaking during his visit to the Kano State Governor, Mr. Abba Yusuf, at the government house as part of the Salah celebrations. In his remarks, Governor Yusuf reaffirmed his commitment to collaborate with the Emirate Council to promote the well-being and advancement of the people of the state.
There you have it, your political roundup stories. Now let's tell you what happened earlier today in Sokoto, where the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, is asking for understanding and support of Nigerians and leaders, calling on leaders in the Northwest region especially to unite and support the present administration's efforts in addressing challenges confronting the people. The Vice President, during a Salah homage to the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Mohammed Sahad Abubakar III, in his palace, says, President Tinubu is aware of the challenges facing our people, the insecurity that has pervaded the Northwest region, and is taking far-reaching measures to address the situation. I urge our political leaders to unite in order to prevent the common challenges of insecurity, poverty, and underdevelopment in the region. End of quote. Let me allow you to listen to the VP, as he said it, in Sokoto at the Palace of the Sultan.
Please accept the glad tidings and regards from His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is very much aware of the challenges of our people. The insecurity that has pervaded the northwest region of the country is taking far-reaching measures, and I want to congratulate you. In the past 30 days, there has been some semblance of peace. Out of the 4 terrorist leaders, I think the security forces have adequately handled 3 of them. I want to commend them. We want to thank them for all the sacrifices they have made and continue to make for peace to envelop this part of the world. There can never be peace without development, and there can never be development without peace. I want to urge our political leaders to unite as a people to confront our common challenges of insecurity, poverty, and underdevelopment.
Well, and you had the vice president. Out of 4 of the major terrorists, 3 have been defeated. Well, we're hoping to see real actions to ensure that the nation is truly secured. Well, in recent news, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has responded to the growing concerns surrounding the 2023 elections. We'll delve into the details of these and get some reactions, and also examine the potential impact of what has been said, especially that we know what could be potentially come out of the tribunal, which is ongoing now, as all the parties have their fingers crossed on what could be the outcome of the Presidential Election Tribunal. Well, additionally, in a landmark moment for the APC and the Bola Tinubu camp, President Tinubu has completed his first month in office. We analyze the key decisions, policies, and actions, and of course, the backlash on the Nigerian people. Some of the decisions and actions of this government undertaking in the last month and during these periods, and we'll also be discussing their implications for the nation's future. Joining us today is an esteemed human rights lawyer and activist, senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana. We'll be discussing the recent developments that have captured the nation's attention, including the INEC's response to concerns surrounding the 2023 election, as well as President Tinubu's first month in office. Mr. Falana, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight on the program. Let me get your view generally. For the Tinubu team, it's a big deal. 1 month in office, and from their own point of view, they've made some decisive policy decisions, and they've made some far-reaching policy actions, which is already having its effect on the livelihoods and the lives of many Nigerians. But in summary, how do you react, or how do you describe the 1 month in office of Bola Tinubu?
Well, I think the last 1 month has been moments of challenges, whereas the Buhari administration had cancelled fuel subsidy in the 2023 budget, but Nigerians expected that regime was not going to carry out the implementation of the removal. But the Bola Tinubu administration took Nigerians by surprise when at the inauguration speech of the president, an announcement was made to the effect that fuel subsidy was gone forever. The reverberating effects of the policy have been fed by the Nigerian people, particularly the wretched of the earth, the poor, and therefore the government has been compelled to declare its intention to roll out some palliatives on the part of the labor movement and the civil society organizations they are asking the government is being asked to consider alternatives, alternative economic program, as opposed to the Washington consensus or the policies dictated, deleterious policies dictated by the IMF and World Bank. And that is that whereas you have announced the removal of first subsidy, and we're being told now that about $10 billion will be saved, Nigerians are asking the government to look at the alternatives. Can we trade with countries that are prepared to accept Naira as opposed to our looking for the dollars? Can we embrace now the compressed natural gas, CNG, instead of PMS? Because from what we have just been told by one of leading economists, bourgeois economists in the country, Mr. Rewane, we are being told now that this is not the end of fuel subsidy removal. According to him, the government has not totally removed fuel subsidy. The EPA, I think another organization, petroleum suppliers, are saying that very soon, because of the collapse, or because of devaluation of the national currency via dollarization, the pump price may go to 700 Naira. So the government will have to go back to the drawing table and look at the available options, under the Kenya model, by looking for friends in the international arena, like Saudi Arabia. Can we pay Naira while we are trying to fix our refineries, while you give us fuel? Or you simply trade with countries like China and India. Please, we are ready to sell our oil to you. Can you pay us Naira instead of dollars, so that we can show up the value of the Naira? Because as long as you continue to devalue the Naira via dollarization, the country will be in trouble. And these are the issues. These are the issues.
Yeah. So, I mean, for a lot of Nigerians, some of them who tonight are watching the program tonight, having bought an expensive, they bought fuel 3 times the price they would normally buy it May 28. May 29, their lives are taking a new turn entirely. Some of those who said that before now, that they will go to work, albeit with the little salaries they are earning. But now some of them will have to trek some distance, then have to take transport, because if they have to spend what they need to spend on transport, the prices have gone up. The price of commodities have gone up. The price of transportation had gone up. I mean, you look at it, subsidy removal, a lot of people have applauded it. But the effect of it is more on the downtrodden, the poor, the masses of our nation. Should they, I mean, or couldn't the Tinubu government have seen this happening? And now the issue of electricity tariff, and although they said this may not happen, the hike in the price of electricity tariff, and a whole lot of these issues are already impacting directly on the food on the table and the quality of life of the average citizen. They say, well, it might be a good policy, but Nigerians are suffering.
What is important in the implementation of government policies is to look at the impact on the people. Now that it's clear that those who initially applauded the removal of fuel subsidy are beginning to appreciate the enormity of the crisis that it has caused for the country, and now mounting pressure on the government to fast-track the process of cushioning the effects of removal. No doubt there was a lot of fraud that characterized the management of fuel subsidy. and the government will have to investigate that. Secondly, the government will have to move speedily to address the suffering of the people, undeserved pains inflicted on the people because of the irresponsibility of the Nigerian ruling class. Whereas General Muhammadu Buhari had promised in 2015, when I get to power, I am going to fix all the refineries.
Seems to be some glitch there, connection issues with Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who's been reacting to the aftermath of the removal of subsidy by the Bola Tinubu administration, which is just spent just about a month in office. The government, as soon as the president was getting his inauguration speech on the day of the transition or the day of inauguration, he did declare that subsidy is gone, and thereafter Nigerians started to experience direct effect in the cost of PMS, which of course now has affected a whole lot of cost of prices of commodities and the quality of lives of an average citizen in the country. And so Mr. Femi Falana has been speaking with us on this matter. Plus, we will be getting more reaction from him on the state of the nation, the issues relating to the 2023 elections, now that INEC is coming out to explain to Nigerians what happened, questions that we're asking on what happened to the IRF, the conduct of the election. Could that be the best that Nigerians could achieve or experience, or could that be the best that it could give to Nigerians, considering the kind of hopes and aspirations that they had before going into the February presidential election? There are going to be 3 governorship elections in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo on the 16th of November, and all of these have one effect: the trust that the Nigerian people have in INEC. But we'll take a moment right now. Hopefully, we will be able to reconnect with Mr. Falana. And when we come back, we continue the conversation and critical questions that the learned silk will be answering tonight on the program. We'll take a break and we'll be right back, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to our conversation with Mr. Femi Falana, a Senior Advocate of Nigerian Rights Activists. Apologies for that outage in the connection. But now that we are back, Mr. Falana, you look at the proposal on the palliative, it does look to me that there are more attention being paid to civil servants. Civil servants, they have just a little population amongst the Nigerian middle class or the lower class in the country. And so more attention is being paid. You look at the $800 million dollar loan that the federal government, under the Buhari government, has already sought. In that loan, Mr. Falana, let me say that $10.74 million of the $23.3 million will be spent on goods, works, non-consulting services, consulting services, operating costs of the National Social Safety Net, coordinating office, and other projects. Out of that, Mr. Falana, the federal government is expected to spend $23.3 million on consultancy fees out of the $800 million loan to be gotten. What is your view on this palliative? If Nigerians are getting palliatives, what are the kind of palliatives that will have a direct effect on their lives now, because they are experiencing the pain now?
So in the first place, the so-called loan should be a grant under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. You cannot take a loan for palliatives. Sections 43 and 44 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act are very clear that loans are meant for capital projects. So you can't take loans for palliative. Secondly, the National Assembly
sorry, Mr. Falana,
have to give an approval to the request for a loan.
Apologies. Yeah. I like us to clear that so that we don't forget.
Yeah.
So these loans that the World Bank has approved for Nigeria, if it's used for palliative, is it a crime?
No, it's not a loan, but a grant. A loan cannot be used for palliatives under the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
But that is what is being called, Mr. Falana.
The World Bank should be persuaded to appreciate.
That is what the World Bank calls it.
No, it doesn't matter what the federal government calls it. We are not taking a loan. The World Bank knows the provisions of the law. The federal government of Nigeria knows the law, and that you cannot take a loan for palliatives. So to that extent, it was the World Bank that came up with the idea of giving the money. The government never applied for a loan. The World Bank said, let's encourage you to remove fuel subsidy. Therefore, we are giving you a grant of $800 million. Some people are calling it a loan. It is not a loan. You don't give a loan without a request, without an approval by the National Assembly.
So, second, Mr. Falana, just apologies. Apologies, please. Let's clear that. Let's clear that, please, sir. And for a loan, there are repayment plans. So this is the repayment plan as we know it. The repayment plan will be made in installment, with the first payment due on the 15th of January 2027. And the last payment is due on the 15th of July 2051. A grant does not have a repayment plan. If I'm correct, I stand to be corrected. A loan does have a repayment plan. Yes, sir.
We have, my law firm has written to the World Bank to appreciate that you're not giving a loan. And if you insist it's a loan, we are going to challenge it. What they have given is a grant, and we're not going to pay back. You want to encourage the government to remove fuel subsidy for reasons best known to you. So coming back to what should happen, I think the government is saying now that we are saving $10 billion from the removal of fuel subsidy. And that is what the government will have to address. How much of that fund will be deployed, will be earmarked for addressing the challenges faced by Nigerians? And I'm reluctant to say this. For the past 42 years or thereabout, that the government have been increasing, Nigerian governments have been increasing the cost of petroleum products. It was only the Abacha junta that set up the Petroleum Trust Fund to address problems of hospitals, build roads, and the rest of it. Since then, all the gains have been lost in the system through diversion of the fund. So if the government wants to save the bulk of the $10 billion that was meant for fuel subsidy, and deploy that to addressing the problems of the people, there has to be an agency to go out there, people by credible people, to go out there and address the problems confronting our people. And by the way, like you said, we're not dealing with only civil servants or workers. The government of Kwara State and Edo State have already reduced the number of working days from 5 to 3. And I do hope other governments are going to follow suit or devise other means to address the problems confronting our people. Since all the state governments are clapping for the removal of fuel subsidy, the attention should not be on the federal government alone. The state government must intervene decisively. The local government must also bring out their own palliatives to address the pains that have been inflicted on the Nigerian people.
Mr. Falana, when a lot of Nigerians hear palliative, it doesn't look like a good idea. You remember, on one of our platforms, you were popular for saying that they were holding Indomie. Palliatives in this country has not come with as a good idea. You know what happened with palliatives. We know what happened with sharing handouts, 5,000 naira. It hasn't really worked. A lot of economists have said that has not really impacted on the real economy of Nigeria. And these are the questions that we are asking. And if people, Mr. Falana, have said...
Show what I expect.
Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hello, Sean.
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
This time around, we're not talking of 5,000 naira per month. Because we're talking of 133 million people that are extremely poor. And from the devaluation of the currency, about 4 million have been added to that number. So we're talking of about 137 million people that are extremely poor. The $800 million being proposed by the World Bank will go nowhere. And that is why the government will have to take the bulk of the $10 billion being saved to address the problems, the challenges of the removal of fuel subsidy. Secondly, we must also look at statutory palliatives, welfare programs already decreed by law for implementation by the government. For instance, you are supposed to have National Health Insurance Scheme for Nigerians. Is that working? You have Pension Reforms Act. Why are people still keen up to collect pension? You have Child's Right Act, Child's Right Law in each of the states. These laws have insisted that every Nigerian child shall be educated from primary to junior secondary school. For me, you have the Housing Act, National Housing Act, that prescribes that 2.5% of the salary of a worker will be deducted and put in a fund so that workers can apply for housing loan. These are statutory palliatives that have to be implemented now.
I like to
do that. The government will have to wake up and appreciate its responsibilities.
I mean, I'd like to quickly move to other issues because this issue of subsidy is not the only matter that is begging for attention in our nation at the moment. But there's something that bothers my mind, Mr. Falana, and is one of the issues that you raised earlier. And those who are critically looking at these $800 million, the amount that is going to some consultants and the amount that is going into some hands that Nigerians need to really dig and probe and how to utilize, because this is going to be a burden to the nation. It's not supposed to go into private pockets. But that aside, Mr. Falana, if we say, and government has come out to say, that they know that there are highly placed people who are involved in stealing Nigeria's crude oil, why is it difficult to bring these people to book? Are they too powerful? Are they too big for the over 2 million or 200 million Nigerians? Or what exactly is going on?
Well, Sean, our OPEC quota is 1.8 million barrels of crude oil per day. We are barely producing 1.2 million barrels. So 600,000 barrels are stolen daily. And this is unacceptable. No responsible government can say that oil theft cannot be combated. I'm aware that very soon the oil thieves are going to be exposed. Whereas there are 36 oil terminals, only 20 of them are metered. In 2012, after the protests, the Jonathan administration set up the new Ribadu Committee to investigate the monumental fraud that informed importation of fuel. At the end of the investigation, that panel came up with a report that many of our terminals are not metered. I am aware that we have 36 terminals, only 20 are metered. So the remaining 16 have not been metered, and that is where oil is stolen. So this regime has a task, more so that Mr. Nuhu Ribadu is now the National Security Advisor. He must walk his talk by ensuring that the recommendation submitted to the Jonathan administration is implemented now, because Nigeria is the only oil-producing country. The only oil-producing country. Talking of oil theft, talking of smuggling of petroleum products, talking of inability to fix refineries. And so this must end. And for me, that is the main issue to address. If you are giving 5,000 naira to poor people, 10,000 naira, and you are devaluing the currency through dollarization, you are not going to address the problems. In fact, you are going to maximize poverty and increase inequality in the country. So the government will have to address and put an end to oil theft. It's not oil science to do that. I mean, rocket science. With the appointment, with the employment of a non-state actor like Mr. Government Ompolo, which is to the shame of our security forces. Through that organization, we are now able to produce 1.2 million barrels of crude oil per day instead of 900,000 barrels. And now that the government is being called upon to meter all our terminals, I am very confident, right, that the government can stop oil theft in a matter of weeks.
We're hoping that that will happen. Mr. Falana, let me take you away to another very crucial matter, which is the issue of election. I had on the program yesterday Mr. Festus Okoye, who works with INEC, and he was talking about the glitch that happened in the transmission of results via the IREV portal, which caused a lot of stir, and a lot of Nigerians are asking the question, what really happened? There are 3 elections on that day. 2 were successfully transmitted via the IREV. The other, on the presidential election, several weeks after, were not properly transmitted to the IREV portal. Let me get your view on our electoral process. Consistent election is one of the building blocks of a democracy. What do you think is going on?
I am very, very reluctant to speak about the report of the EU observer team, because for me, it smacks of colonial mentality for us in this age and time to be celebrating the reports of European Union observer. I mean, I have found reports in the local media much more credible than the report of the EU. And so we shouldn't waste our time debating what the European observers found. I mean, for instance, they are saying about 97 people were killed. The local media have reported 137 people, and that has been confirmed. So, by the human rights community. And I can point out other areas that one cannot rely upon. But what is important is that INEC is already put to task before the Presidential Election Tribunal to justify what happened with respect to the transmission of election results. And I'm not in a position, to make a categorical statement because of ethical consideration. As a senior lawyer, I cannot use your medium to make definitive pronouncement on matters that are pending before a properly constituted court of law. So I would rather keep my own opinion for now until the court has been able to determine the veracity of the claim of INEC. Thank you.
Let me get your view on the wreck in Adamawa, Sokoto, and Abia State. INEC itself had come out to say there are investigations, especially on the Adamawa wreck, and they have enough. There's a report on the investigation from the police, and perhaps they have enough to be able to prosecute that matter. How much of an impact, Mr. Falana, is that scenario on our election, on our democracy?
Well, under the Electoral Act 2022, I think Section 145, INEC is empowered to prosecute electoral offenders, whether they are INEC chiefs or resident electoral commissioners or whatever. So once the police has concluded the investigation, the report will be turned to INEC for prosecution of those who are indicted. And I'm aware that the INEC has set up a prosecution team, including lawyers drawn from the EFCC, ICPC, and others, to prosecute electoral offenders. The Nigerian Bar Association has submitted names of lawyers in all the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory to assist in the prosecution of electoral offenders. So I expect that the reports of the indicted resident electoral commissioners will be submitted to the committee so that they can be, those who are indicted will be arraigned as soon as possible. Because unless we have sanctions for impunity, we're not going to stop the manipulation of elections in our country.
Mr. Falana, INEC itself had said they will go through, in fact, they will begin an internal procedure. It will begin in July and it will end sometimes on the end of August. An internal procedure, an administrative process of looking at what went wrong and what went right. And when we look at it, the kind of money, out of the no money situation that Nigeria is in, that the nation invested in an election, do we deserve better as a people? The kind of election that INEC delivered to this nation in February and March of this year.
Well, INEC itself has admitted publicly that, and the way it put it is that there were technological and procedural challenges. INEC, with profound respect, conducted elections in 2023 that would have been the best in recent time, but for the failure of the system to transmit the result of the presidential election. Buharis machines were distributed. It captured voters. People voted, even though there was violence promoted by political leaders in many parts of the country. And there were threats. Some voters were prevented from casting their votes. That cannot be blamed on INEC, but on the security forces. But all those who committed those electoral offenses are required, are expected to be prosecuted. We spent about 300 billion on the elections we had twice. I have suggested, and this is what has just taken place in Sierra Leone, that our 4 elections, presidential, governorship, National Assembly, and State of Assembly elections, can be held in one day. Sierra Leone has just done that. And Nigeria can do it so that we can save a lot of cost. But again, unless you go back to the drawing table this time around, where did we go wrong? Or where did INEC go wrong? Can we now have full electronic voting, full deployment of technology, so that once the machine is fully deployed, Buharis machine, as accreditation, election has taken place, and the results are transmitted to the central server of INEC. All you will need to do when you want to prove your election petition is simply to get the report of the collected from the BVAS machine and the report of transmitted result, and you put the tribunal. It should be possible for you to prove your petition in 2 weeks, in 14 days, like it is done in Kenya. But once you are required to call 150 witnesses, you are going to be in trouble. And that is why we must, at the end of the ongoing judicial proceedings, we must go back to the drawing table. Don't wait till 2026. We must start now to reform the electoral process so that we won't go back to this kind of shameful experience once again.
Let me take you to yet another issue, and it is the investigation, suspension, and arrest of Mr. Godwin Emefiele and Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa. Godwin Emefiele, the governor of the CBN, Abdulrasheed Bawa, the suspended EFCC chairman. Now, it's been 2 weeks that Abdulrasheed Bawa has been with the DSS, which they confirm. Mr. Emefiele is over 2 weeks. Legally speaking, are these the right procedures?
Well, under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, if you are going to detain a Nigerian beyond 24 hours in a place like Lagos or Abuja and in other places where you do not have courts within a radius of 40 kilometers, you are required to approach a magistrate court to ask for a remand order to allow for investigation. To that extent, the State Security Service can be said to have obtained court orders to detain them. But for how long can this last? And I have personally expressed my position, told the government that you must handle these cases in line with the provisions of the law so that you do not give room, you do not allow loopholes to be exploited in the course of the investigation. I wouldn't want to go further because I want to say, Seun, that I've also been contacted by some of the parties involved to see what can be done to ensure that these matters are properly prosecuted. As far as I'm concerned, investigation should be speedily conducted, more so where allegations are made. I do not expect any delay in the investigation or the very serious allegations that have been made. All right. I mean, in the case of Mr. Emefiele, the State Security Service last year had alleged his involvement in terrorism, financing, and so on and so forth. Please quickly do something about that. With respect to money laundering and other offenses, take them to the appropriate agencies of the government. In the case of Mr. Bawa, we haven't been told the offense or the offenses he committed. So I cannot speak very confidently with respect to the gentleman, except to ask the government or the agencies involved to speed up the investigation and have them arraigned in court if they are indicted. Otherwise, you must grant them bail.
Mr. Falana, I'll take you to a corridor where you serve as, well, where you practice, which is the legal corridor. And I'd like to remind you of this video, and I'd like to get your view on the impact on the Nigerian judiciary. And this is what Senator Bukachua said on the floor of the Senate. It's perhaps been worsened by what Senator Rochas Okorocha also said, although the Lord, the former president of the appeal court had come out to say all those were not right. But then it has implication. But let me remind you, for the sake of our viewers who are not privy to that statement made by Senator Bukachua at the valedictory session of the Senate, let me remind you, this was what he said.
I must thank particularly my wife, whose freedom and independence I encroached upon while she was in office. And she has been very tolerant and accepted my encroachment and extended her help to my colleagues.
Distinguished, please, I don't think this is a good idea, go in this direction. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea, please.
That was one. And one would think that that was bad enough. I mean, this is Senator Rochas Okorocha, and was speaking to the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan. Take a listen to what he also said.
We shall all stand to say Nigeria is a great country. And to those of you, our colleagues, including you, Mr. Senate President, you know you're a very smart politician. How you came back is yet another political book to discuss.
Sorry?
I say how you came back is another chapter in our political history.
How I came back from where?
Mr. President, how you return to the Senate as a senator will open another chapter of great discussion in our political book. Because I was there in the field with you running for president. I never knew how you were able to meander and return and live in some of us. Next time, you must teach me how to do that.
It was easy. It was easy. I was there with you in the field, but after our defeat, my constituents thought they needed me again.
Mr. Falana, your thought and what this means for the Nigerian judiciary?
Well, the scenario in the Senate leaves much to be desired. It's a very unfortunate situation that as such a forum, distinguished senators will attempt to expose the judiciary to ridicule. As far as I'm concerned, and I've made this point before my colleagues in the legal profession, these statements should not be swept under the carpet. We have a duty to the National Judicial Council to cause an investigation into the very witty statement credited to Senator Adamu Bukachua, more so that his wife, a former president of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Justice Zainab Bukachua, retired, has come out to say, to distance herself from the statement credited to her husband on the floor of the Senate. It's formed part of the proceedings of the Senate. And for that reason, this country, through the National Judicial Council, who sit a duty to get to the root of the allegation. That's my position.
All right. Mr. Femi,
I mean, the Senate president saw the danger of where the senator was going to, and he had to intervene very, very quickly to avoid further embarrassment if the senator continued to split the beans And of course, you know, the statement credited to Senator Okorocha as well, which was an indictment of the Senate president. How did you come back? You were involved in presidential primaries. How did you emerge a senator through a primary, senatorial primary? So these are very serious allegations that we shouldn't just under in the interest of the country.
Mr. Femi Falana, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. No time stipulated can ever be enough to get your view. Leonard Sick, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, human rights activist. Indeed, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shum. My pleasure.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. I'll see you on Sunday at 8 p.m. Bye-bye.